Welcome to this week's edition of Black Authors Matter TV, where we interview the latest movers and shakers in the African American literary community. You'll meet some old friends, discover new ones, and stay abreast of the latest book developments around the country and even the world. So sit back and relax for the next 2 hours with Black Authors Matter TV co-hosts Gwen Richardson and Dr. Rhonda Lawson.
Good evening and welcome to another episode of Black Authors Matter TV. I'm Gwen Richardson, your host for tonight, along with my co-host,
Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Good evening, everyone.
And Rhonda's just recently returned from Philadelphia, and where you were at what was the event again?
I was at the Literacy Nation Indie Authors Book Festival. It was a 5-hour event, but it was beautiful. Lots of great authors there. A lot of new authors I'd never met before, but I did some networking and we're going to be seeing a whole lot more of them.
Oh, okay. All right. It's a lot of people writing books.
That's true.
The more, we thought maybe like we're almost at 800 guests, and we were wondering, is there like a max? Is there, we actually max out of people? And the answer is no. So we have a great show for you tonight. We have 2 interviews for the first hour, and then the second hour of the show we'll be announcing the finalists for the Black Authors Matter Children's Book Awards. And then we'll have, like we do every year, we'll have some discussion around the process, and the judges will be part of the conversation. So look forward to that. And the finalists, the people who submitted have all been notified, so some of them will be tuning in for that second hour. So our first guest tonight is, she's new, she's making moves and making waves, and we met her at the National Book Club Conference, but we had already booked her for the show, and she's wearing her Black Authors Matter t-shirt. Wonderful.
Yeah. Well, I got to tell you, Octavia was doing her thing at the National Book Club Conference. I mean, she taught a workshop. She had a great discussion, and she really made an impact because the readers are coming from everywhere just to seek her out. I mean, they would come up to the table, and your husband was there, and they were like, okay, well, you're cool and all, but where Octavia?
I was so nervous. His little anxiety was getting the best of him, but I think he did a good job because he had never worked with case
He did an amazing job. And your team, I know your publicist was there too. And I just loved the way she supported you that weekend. So it's always important to have a good team, a really supportive team. So
Yes.
And it's great when your significant other is a part of that team. So kudos to you and your family.
Thank you.
It's good. It's good to bring the husbands along, or
Absolutely.
whomever, significant others, or whomever. In this case, it happened to be your husband, and they were sitting with us at the gala Saturday night at the end.
Yes.
Yes.
We were sitting at the same table then, and her table was right beside our table, our vendor table, where we had t-shirts, and she was doing her books. So we got to meet her and everything. And it was great meeting people that we knew them, but a lot of them, we've never met them face to face. So,
right.
Mm-hmm. So now I hear some feedback. So Octavia, do you have another device on?
No, just my phone. Let me put both of my headphones in. So I only have one of my AirPods in.
Okay, yeah, I hear a voice talking.
It's
How
not
does that
me
sound? Now my kids are in the background, so you could be hearing them, but they aren't close to me.
That could have been what it was. Okay, well, Octavia, you are your latest book, Cutthroat. I believe that's your latest book.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a ton of reviews for that book, which means you've sold a lot of books. When I checked, it was over 3,000 reviews. And when you have 1,000 reviews, you sold a lot of books. When you have 2, 3, and 4,000, or it's like some of the mainstream publishing houses, you'll get 20,000. But that's because they have the ability to do all the distribution, all the promotion, and they might have had you on Good Morning America or something like that. So, when did your book Cutthroat come out? And do you have a copy of it so that you can show us?
I have the proof right here. So,
Okay.
it came from Amazon, so it has that banner there.
Yes.
But
Yes.
it came out on Easter Sunday. On
Okay.
4/20 of this year.
Okay.
And so that was what, April, May, June, July, August. So about 4 months ago, it came out. And I credit all of the buzz to my team. So Siren is my actual agent. She's not my publicist. Of course, they're on the same team. She's my literary agent.
Okay.
And she has just been phenomenal. Siren is stern. Siren says what she means, and she means what she says. And when you listen to what she tells you to do, you get 3,500 reviews in 4 months. Okay. I have books that came out in, when I first started writing, which was like 2016, that don't have 400 reviews. Right. And then I have this book that came out not even 6 months ago that has well over 3,000. Right. I have readers coming from the woodwork saying, Octavia, this book is phenomenal. And it's because I listen to my team, right? I'm working with women that I know have my best interest at heart. And when you listen, because at one point in time, I didn't have, an agent and a publicist. I was doing everything on my own as a self-published author. And it was hard, and to the point where I was feeling kind of burnt out. And I'm like, you know what? Writing has been my passion since I was, 16 years old. I don't want to be burnt out. I don't want to stop doing what I'm passionate about. So I need a team of people that can do the heavy lifting while I do the writing, right? And then I found them. I found Pretty Girls Do Read, and it has been great. It has been a phenomenal experience.
You mentioned you found Pretty Girls Do Read. Tell us about that.
So I follow them individually. So it's Siren, it's Denisha, it's Fanny. I follow them individually on TikTok because TikTok is where I feel like my following really grew, right? And then in October, I think October of last year, they started promoting themselves as a public relations marketing agency, right? And so at the time I was feeling kind of burnt out. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to reach out to these women because they interviewed me before, right? They interviewed me. I'm letting me know that, okay, we're going to do some marketing, and we possibly would want to bring me along, right? And at the time I was like, okay, but I was still indie, and I was a little hesitant about relinquishing some power because I didn't know that I could, or if I would be comfortable with that, right? And I I wanted to do a Halloween box. And that was called, I think it was called Unhinged. The book that I wanted to put in there was called Unhinged. And when I asked them to um, market the book, we had a meeting, and they were letting me know, like, we are not one of those people that's just going to put your books in these Facebook groups and, two for $20 here and there. No, we are a full Black woman owned PR firm. And I was
That's awesome.
like, oh, okay. So, I was a little intimidated, right? Because I had not had that type of support before I became independent, because I was at first working with this company called True Glory Publications. And it was not the best experience, but it was an experience that I felt like I needed to get to where I am now. And I wasn't used to people like truly promoting me as a brand. So I didn't really know what to expect. But I put my faith in God and in these women and their expertise. And from October to now, it has been a great ride. I
So
could not
just
ask.
those few months.
Just
That's a
those few
great
months.
turnaround.
Yes, it has. So under them, I released Unhinged, and I was still kind of hesitant about, the marketing packages. So I didn't, do as much as I did with Cutthroat. And, for Cutthroat, I said, let's just go all in. And they were like, let's go all in. And when we did that, the buzz just really started coming in. And to this day, August 12th, I am still getting reviews. I am still having people inbox me on all social media platforms telling me, Octavia, this is a great book. This is just, it's wild, but it is amazing. And I have people that, I have never interacted with, coming to me because I tell all readers, like, my inbox is always open, right? Let me know how you feel because I feel as though when you listen to your readers, it helps you become a better author, right? You may have great feedback. You may have a point of view that I didn't think of. I'm just an author, so I'm going to write from my point of view, but that doesn't
Right.
mean other people's point of view is not accurate, right? Or isn't beneficial. It is. And I feel as though that's why I've been so kind of successful in this independent space because I'm willing to listen and learn. I am not one of those you can't teach an old dog new tricks author, right? Some authors are, they aren't kind when you give them feedback. I am not one of those authors. I have been telling, my team, look, I want to do this full time. I want to
Yes.
be a full-time author. I love going to events. I love going to book signings. I have done so much and I enjoy it and I want to keep doing it. And I can't do this and still be in corporate America. I want to focus on writing and I want to, build a bigger rapport with my readers, right? So that's why I'm on social media all the time looking crazy, but I show up. Right? Because my
Saw it.
readers are
Don't
just
feel
as
bad about
important.
looking crazy. I saw a lady on TikTok. I think it was yesterday. She had her head wrap on, she had her robe on, and she was holding her microphone right in front of her like this. But she had 174,000 views, and none of them were talking about what she was wearing.
I
So
say
you
just
can
show
do it
up.
as long as
Just
you give,
show up.
as long as you're showing up, and as long as you're giving good content. That's what people care about.
That is what people care about. And actually, I have gotten more better feedback when I'm just being myself, when I have my locks pulled up, scarf on, it's like I'm being my authentic self and I'm coming to you any way I see fit because you guys are important, right? So
Mm-hmm.
rather I'm having, a rough day as a mom or a rough day as an author or a rough day in corporate America, I'm still going to show up because I feel as though you guys deserve some time. And I'm going to give
Yeah.
you that.
Yes.
Okay. Well, now you said you started in 2016.
Hmm.
So how many books have you published since then?
I have published 40 books
40
and
books since
counting.
What?
2016.
Yes,
And are you still working your day job, your corporate job?
I am.
Oh
Yes.
wow. So how do you
Wow.
find time to do all this writing, young lady?
I make time. So one person, I had an interview a couple of months ago, and they asked me, so you set the perfect ambiance, you have to have the candles right. And I'm like, no, I'm a professional author, right? There is no perfect setting. You find time to do what's important,
That's
right?
right.
I have written on the back of receipts. I have written on the back of gum wrappers. I have written in the palms of my hand, right? Just so I don't lose the idea that's in my head. If I
Mhm.
am driving, Siri, leave a voice note, right? There is no right time to write. I have two small children. They're 3 and 4 years old. When they
Oh,
go to sleep at night, I'll catch a quick little cat nap. And normally from 12 to 4, I'm up writing because I have to find the time to write. The books aren't going to write themselves, right? And then I'm a
absolutely.
hand writer, right? I literally handwrite my books with a pen and a notebook, or this is the blank notebook right here. But
So
all my
you have a
books,
bunch of tablets.
I certainly do. This right
Okay.
here, this was Dear Vicky, right?
Okay.
Everything is handwritten. So for all 40 books, there
Interesting.
is a book, there's a composition
Mm.
book or a notebook that goes along with it. I
Well,
started writing at
yeah, I'm
16.
I'm with you on that. Now I do a lot of writing on my laptop. My laptop needs to be in a museum as much work as I've done on it. However,
I
I
concur.
do like to handwrite every once in a while, especially if there's an idea in my head. It feels good to just handwrite sometimes. It's like the
Hmm.
ideas flow a little bit more. It's okay
Yeah.
if I have to cross something out and write over it. It's just
Hmm.
the idea of actually writing.
And
Yes.
for me, like I said, I started writing at 16. I had a class assignment, and she said I had to write a folklore short story. I had never written anything before, right? So, of course, I had, read books, but I had never written story.
Mhm.
And she said, take some notes from books that you've read and write the story. And I did. And then I won an award for it. So my first time writing, I had a notebook and a pen. And so even all of these years later, because I turned 40 in July, I still write. Like I can't break away from the way that I started. And I've tried to, type on my laptop. I've tried to write on my iPad with the Apple Pencil. It doesn't feel the same way to me as a pen in a notebook. Like I need to
Yeah.
feel my words when I'm writing. Other things distract me, but this notebook and this pen is just perfection.
Now I do, because Ron and I are both authors. I have a notebook, a tablet for every book I've written. But what I do is I start in the tablet with notes, and as things come to me, I kind of organize it in there
Mhm.
and research. If I come across research, things I need to cite, because a lot of my books are either they're nonfiction or even my novels have nonfiction in them.
Mhm.
So once I keep gathering the data until I'm ready to pull the trigger on the book. So it might be years. Some of the data that I'm still collecting on topics that I want to write about. One of them I decided to pull the trigger on. I thought I was going to have it done this year, but it's not. It's going to be next year. But I'm with you on just the thought process of it's in your mind, and
Mhm.
a notebook is so handy.
Yes.
You can just sketch it right then, or write the notes right then. Whereas on a phone or a tablet, you have to go sit on it. Now, Rhonda, she sleeps with her laptop. I, I,
She
we
didn't.
moved together
Look,
in 3 different cities. And when I go to sleep, Rhonda is on her laptop. Now I normally get up first, but when I go to
not
sleep,
lying. She's not lying.
that laptop is in the bed or the bedside. It's
Oh my
on
goodness. And I just can't, like, it's distracting to me. It's so distracting. Like, even though I have Microsoft, the app on my phone, once I start seeing notifications for other things, okay, notifications for TikTok or Facebook or Shein or something else,
No.
I get
Yeah,
distracted,
that's true. Those,
right?
those notifications do
So
get distracting.
yeah. So I don't have all of those distractions on my notebook. It's just the white pages and the blue lines. And I can focus better that way. I don't have anything taking my attention away from what I'm trying to create.
And old school, here's the other benefit. It can't be hacked.
That is correct. That
If
is
it's
correct.
on paper, nobody can steal it because it's just you have it and that's it. Unless they come in your
Mhm.
house and get it, but they would have to know it's there and where it is. But they can't hack it. It can't be hacked. So that's can't be copied. So
Mhm.
that's another benefit. And even though we're in the age of AI, and I was gonna mention something about AI that my other friend Rhonda, I have two friends named Rhonda. She's a teacher at a community college, and she said about AI. She said her students are using it, but she'll get 8 of the same essay. The topic,
That's
they all will use
That's
AI.
the problem. I
That's
really
the
think
problem.
that schools need to stop fighting against AI and learn how to work with AI. If these kids, it's really hard to tell kids not to use AI when it's right there. So why not have a class where you're teaching them the proper way to use it and how
Right.
to use it as a research tool? Because I say I use AI a lot. I say this a lot. I use AI a lot. However, I use it so much that if I'm reading a think piece on social media, I know that it was AI generated because
Right.
they don't change it up. It's the same type of writing, the same format, the same writing style. I know AI when I see it.
Hmm.
But if we're teaching people how to use AI and teaching them how to use it as a research tool, how to use it to maybe organize your thoughts and then put your original thought in, I think that you'll get better results, but we're still too busy fighting against it, and it's not going
Right.
there.
I
Well, it
do
definitely isn't
love
going anywhere.
artificial intelligence. I do appreciate it because I use it for research as well.
Yeah,
However,
research
I
is
am
good.
so against using it to write your papers or your books, or I feel as though
Mhm.
it takes away from the art of creative writing. You didn't write
Absolutely.
anything, right?
Right.
And
Mhm.
maybe it's because I'm a handwriter and I'm still kind of old school in that way of thinking. If you did not write your book, you are not the author of that book. Chat GPT is the author of that book. And I think it's because maybe I sacrifice so much time, sleep, which we all need, time with my kids, free time for myself to write. And I feel as though if I'm willing to sacrifice, when I have a lot going on, and I'm sure everybody has a lot going on, right? Because we all have things going on within a day. What if we can find the time for what's important? If writing is important to you, then write, right? If just putting your name on a book is important, then just say that. But don't say that I authored a book when you did not. I feel as though that's unfair to authors that did write the book.
No,
And
you're absolutely right about that.
I,
And that's why I said you've got to learn how to use it
yeah,
correctly. You have to be able to use it ethically. And yeah, you're right. You can't just say, Chat GPT, write me a romance novel. And then it writes you a romance novel and then you stick your name on it, but you didn't give it any original thought. You didn't even name your characters. You didn't conceptualize your plot. You didn't do anything except chat
right,
GPT to write something for you. You're gonna get trash.
Yeah,
exactly.
well, it's going out and grabbing what's already there. And I prefer for my ideas to come from my mind.
Hmm.
The creative part. I want the ideas to come from me and be original. Now,
Exactly.
but I agree it is great for research because it gathers what's already out there and it kind of gives you a summary. And then you can pick and choose the parts that you need or want. You still need to check on some things because me and Rhonda talked about this one about a month or two ago. A man published, and he was with a well known entity, published the 10 best books for the summer or something like that. And he did it using AI, and half of the books weren't even um, published, or they weren't even books. They weren't even, so, and he had to just do a mea culpa and eat crow. This man was high up and professional. So he tried to do a shortcut. You can get burnt like that and embarrassed. And the idea that you're a teacher and you get 8 papers that are exactly the same, I would give them all F's. And the
Exactly.
original one is the one that's going to rise above. And you can, it's just like what Cliff Notes used to be, or when you use somebody else's work, you can rework it. Don't just copy it and paste it and turn it in. That's just pure laziness.
Or
So
just
Right.
do your own work.
yeah, or yeah, do your
Right.
own work. I agree
Just do
with
your
that. But I'm
own
saying
work.
if you're going to try to do a shortcut, at least change it up, rework it some way so it's not exactly word for word what you found.
Right.
That's
For
plagiarism,
me, it's
you know.
just it's so much, it's rewarding when you see the words that you have literally written yourself, making its way around the world. One of my readers inboxed me the other morning and said, Octavia, you are now a household name. I felt so good hearing that because he had been with me since the beginning of my writing career. Right. And
Oh,
so from 2016 to now 2025, for you to tell me that, I was blown away because I still second guess myself a lot. I still ask myself, am I doing enough or am I doing too much? Right. And I'm getting that gratification because I know that I put pen to paper to come up with this insanity. And I don't do outlines. It's like whatever pops into my head, I build on that. Right.
okay.
I can start a book from chapter 5 and work my way back to chapter 1. That's just the way my mind works. Right.
Okay.
I don't write in order. I don't know why I have a hard time writing in order. And
Interesting.
like my very first book that I wrote as an independent author was called I'll Never Let You Go. That I released that January 1st, 2019, because I was saying this is my fresh start writing on my own, right? And I started that book from one sentence in like chapter 7. That's where that sentence ended up. And that sentence came to me while I was driving to work when I worked for Bank of America. Right. So I don't write from once upon a time. I
Mhm.
don't have that capability. I don't know why, but I just don't. Right. So it's certain words that will pop into my head that will make me say, Octavia, this is going to be a good book, or this is how you start the story off. And it's never chapter 1, or it's never the prologue. Sometimes it's the epilogue. I don't know, but that's just how my mind works. And I remember asking my pen sisters, like, do you all go through this too? And they were like, yeah. Like, we all write differently, but we all are
Mhm.
writing our story. We aren't going to, AI to write our books. I don't feel as though that's rewarding, right? Because how can you connect with characters that you didn't think of?
Well, some people they're not trying to do that. They're trying to make some quick money. That's really all. That's
Right,
it. That's the long
right.
and the short of it. And so
Mhm.
it sounds like you're like the arc of the book. One of the arcs of the book comes to you first, and then you work your way back.
I
But we don't
do.
have but 4 minutes left, and we need to find out about Cutthroat. What is
I was
Cutthroat?
just about to ask the same thing. I need to know what Cutthroat is about. Because somebody in the comments said it's so good. So we need to
Yes,
know
it
what's so
is.
good.
Cutthroat is about a woman that was madly in love with her husband. She thought that there was no problems in their relationship. Then she found out that it was, right? She found out innocently. She didn't go looking for problems. She didn't go looking through his stuff. He called her and said, hey, I want to talk to you about us, expanding our family.
Mm,
And that was it, right? Her and her sister went out to go out to lunch or dinner, and she walked in a restaurant. Well, they were driving by a restaurant and she saw his car where it should not have been. And she went in and saw him with someone else. And it
wow.
went downhill from there. It went downhill from there.
Mm-mm-mm.
And I held nothing
It's
back.
juicy.
Yes.
I held nothing back because a lot of women, we go through a lot, for the sake of love. And sometimes it's not even worth it. It's just not. You go through the ringer for nothing. And in this book, you will see that she did exactly what needed to be done because he was wrong. And the moral of the story is,
Oh,
how far is too far, right? Fair exchange isn't
okay.
robbery. Or is it?
Okay.
Mm,
Well,
mm,
they say
mm-mm.
turnabout is fair play. So, meaning, what goes around comes around, or, um, you know, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. That's
Oh,
physics,
yes.
also humans. And so sometimes people can bring out the worst in you in a particular situation. You might not react that way under a normal circumstance where you thought it
Hmm.
through, but some situations can bring out an emotional response, and you don't know where you're going to go with it.
Oh, yes, you are absolutely right. You
Mhm.
need to read Cutthroat.
It sounds like something I need to read. I need to order my copy.
Oh my
Because I didn't know what
goodness.
it was
In
about.
the
Now,
in
are
the
you
one
still
minute.
indie? Are you
I
still?
am hybrid. I am now
Okay.
hybrid. Yes, I
Okay.
have a audio contract with Podium, so Cutthroat will be out on audio October 28th.
Wonderful. Because that's the way I'm gonna have to
Oh,
read it. Because I be
yeah.
busy.
That's how I
She's
read too.
always
I'm
on her
not. That's how I
laptop.
read too.
And while she's on her laptop, she might even listen to a book. I think, were you doing that at the table? I was trying to talk to Rhonda about something. She was on her laptop. Then she had her
No,
bud on her
I
head.
was trying to post some content and I was trying to make sure it sounded right. That's what I was
Oh,
doing.
okay. I was like, is she listening to a book and on a laptop? What? How's she able to keep that straight? I didn't know.
Well, we have about 30 seconds left, Octavia. Tell us in a couple of short sentences, what type of author are you? Now, I'm not talking hybrid, I'm not talking indie. What type of author are you? What types of books do you write? What stories resonate with you? Who are you?
I am a thriller author through and through. I don't write anything but thriller. You will never catch me in any other category but thriller. Okay. I am true to that craft. I feel as though we need more Black women in thriller, horror, and suspense.
Okay, well,
All right.
yeah, I've been seeing more. I've been seeing, over time, since we've had this show, there have been more and more women in those categories. And my two books are mystery/thrillers. So
Need it.
my two novels.
Yes.
I have more books, but yeah, and that's the kind of I like to do something with action, intrigue. You don't know what's coming, and it's a villain. Creating a really good villain is important in the thriller.
Very good. Yes,
I
it's
agree.
very needed.
Well,
We need the
Octavia,
bad
this was a
guys.
fast interview, and
It was
but
a great interview.
it
I enjoyed
was.
it.
It was 30 minutes. We have to do another one. This wasn't long
Anytime, just
enough.
say the word.
Yeah, let us know when your next book comes out, and so just make sure you reach out to us
I will do
when your
that.
next book is out.
And I will be in DC April of next year for the Chocolate City Lit Festival. So if you guys are available, come
Baby,
and check
that's where
me out.
that's where I live, right?
Yeah, that's where
I
Rhonda
didn't know that.
lives.
I didn't
Yes,
know.
baby. I live in the DMV. I will
Yeah,
see
she's
you
in
in
the
April.
DMV.
I will see you then.
Okay, I might have to figure out how to get there myself. But
Yeah.
anyway, anyway, you take care, Octavia, and congratulations on your
Thank you,
success.
ladies. Y'all have a
Thank
good
Okay,
you.
night.
You
you
too. Bye
too.
bye.
Bye.
Okay, that was quick. And so I'm gonna get a copy.
I like interviews like that. They go quick
Yeah.
because they're interesting and they flow. I love that.
Yes. And she could talk about her work and a lot of things around it.
Right.
She wasn't shy about talking about it. Not everybody is talkative. So some people are writers and they're kind of introverted. So anyway, we have our next guest. He is new, like Octavia, new to the show. And he has a book out that's gotten very, very good reviews. And it's in the category that, my favorite category of books, which is historical fiction. And the book is called, I have my copy that they sent me. I haven't read it yet because my to be read shelves are full, but I'm working my way to it. So anyway, it's called Red Clay. And the author's name is Charles. Now, how you pronounce their last name? Fancher?
Fancher.
Fancher?
You've got
Okay.
it right.
All right. Well, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm very glad to be here.
Well, we're very glad to have you.
Okay, so tell us a little bit before we get into the meat of the book Red Clay. Just give us a little background on you and writing and what you do. Do you write professionally? Just how, and I see a jazz poster behind you, so there's some music in there. And so just tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I've had a long career that's involved writing for most of it. I was a journalist for much of that career. I worked for the Philadelphia Inquirer, the Detroit Free Press, had some television reporting. I also worked on the public relations side of the communications business. I was vice president for communications at Philadelphia newspapers, which published the Inquirer, and also a similar role at the Corporation for Public Broadcasting in Washington. And I finished out my career as a member of the faculty at Howard University in Washington, teaching public relations and other communications courses. So
Okay.
my
We have
career has
so much
been,
in common. I
I
love
know
this.
all these similar threads, everything.
Yes, I work
That
in
we both
public
do.
relations. I live in the DC area. I still work in public relations. I work for the federal government. I'm not going to tell you which agency because y'all ain't about to hate me up in here. Um, but no, and no, I love that. And I'll tell you, and I'm sure you probably experienced this as well. When you work in public relations or public affairs, people think that you're the media and you're not the media. You might work with the media, but I always tell people when I teach my classes, just because you told public affairs does not mean that you told the media. It is okay to let us know what's going on. We need to know what's going on.
That's true. A friend of mine always said, if I'm going to be there when the plane crashes, I want to be there when it takes off as well.
Thank you.
That's really good. That's really good. Now I haven't been writing commentaries in a while, but I spent a good 15 years writing op-eds and commentaries for newspapers. And I was published in the Philadelphia Inquirer and the Detroit Free Press a couple of times in both of them, or maybe 3 or 4 times. So, I wrote about public affairs, politics, social issues, and so that's a common thread.
Indeed.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Well,
Did you ever work on the editorial side, or you worked strictly news?
At the Free Press, I was on the editorial board for a period of time,
Okay.
but I was mostly an editor.
Okay.
And at the Free Press, I was the editor of the Sunday magazine during my time there.
Okay.
But at one time or another, at one paper or another, I think I've probably had my fingers in every department that that there was to be had.
Okay. So now, what led you into book writing?
Well, it's I don't think either of us or any of the three of us has ever known a journalist who didn't think he had a book inside him somewhere. He just never seemed to have the time to
This
sit
is
down
true.
and do anything about it. But this one came about a few years ago. I was in Nashville, Tennessee, visiting my mother, who's at the time was in her 90s and in fact celebrated her 101st birthday last month. But
Oh.
she was still in her 90s. She was still a young woman at the time of that visit. And she has always been a very private person, even within the family. But for some reason that day, she just started talking about her grandfather, in whose house she had been raised. Her father died young, and when that happened, she and her brother and her mother moved in with my grandfather, and he raised her basically, and she had told me little stories here and there about him from time to time over the years, but she really started telling me a lot of little anecdotes, things I'd never heard before. And she stopped at one point. She said, he was a really interesting guy. You should write a book about him. I didn't do anything with that for a while, but the idea never went away. And my original intent was to write a narrative nonfiction book with him at the center of it, and set out to do the research to be able to produce that kind of book. But there came a point where, I thought, I could tell this story, but I'm not sure that it would tell the bigger story that I was then wanting to tell. And it was at that point that I decided that this should be a novel. It should be a work of fiction. It will have some real characters, including my great grandfather, at the center of it. But I can tell the story that I think people needed to hear, if I'm free to do so within the context of fiction. And so that was what I did. And this book is, for the most part, set in the period between the final months of the Civil War and the end of Reconstruction, as Jim Crow is beginning to settle in. Most of the action takes place in and around fictional town, Red Clay, Alabama. And it, while some of the stories are based on anecdotes my mother told me, it is truly a work of fiction, but set against a historically accurate backdrop. So I think it's an entertaining story. Most of it takes place, as I said, in this fictional town in Alabama, but it also goes off to Paris and to the south of France, comes back to the United States in New Orleans, and finally back to Red Clay. So a story that I think many people will find something to appreciate.
Okay, so the characters, the black characters in your book, they went to Paris.
Um, well, they did not, but I'd have to create too much of a spoiler
Oh,
to
okay.
tell you
Okay, all right.
why they didn't, because their lives are intertwined. This is a story that involves two families, multi generations of two families. One
Okay.
white that owned the plantation where my great grandfather, in fact, he was enslaved as a boy, um, and the white and his family, the black family and the white family, and they both find themselves, both families, when the war ends and there's emancipation, both families find themselves in this new world where all the rules have changed. Nothing that they had understood about what it meant to be black or what it meant to be white um, applied in the way that they had. So both families struggle. But at the heart of it is the story of this black family and what they do in that environment and how they find a way to make it and to move forward and set the stage for generations that will follow them. But that is generally what the story is about.
Okay. Well, as the people who watch this show know, that historical fiction is my kind of book. So I'm going to show the cover again, just for the people who may have tuned in late. It's called Red Clay, and the author is Charles Fancher. And it sounds like a
And
very interesting story.
we have a comment here from
Okay.
Curtis Stevenson. He said he has a copy of Red Clay and he's heard
Good.
great things about the book. He's looking forward to reading it.
Well, I am so happy to hear that. I'm proud to say that it seems to have been well received, um, and um, and I've had a number of people tell me that they found it insightful about the Reconstruction era, which is a period in Black history that you know I think we haven't explored enough. And it says, and also that they see parallels between that period and the sort of turmoil that we're going through now. So I think I hope that people will find uh, some things that will give them new insights into our history and also to where we may be headed.
Well, I have to say that my ears perked up when you said that part of the story takes place in New Orleans because that's where I'm from.
Are you really?
Yes, I
Uh,
live in
that,
the DC area, but I'm from New Orleans. I grew up in New Orleans.
oh, bless you. It's one of my favorite places. My wife and I go down there at least once a year. And over the years, we've made friends, and it's just a place that we care about a great deal and look forward to
Yes.
visiting every time we can.
Yeah, I was watching the Hurricane Katrina documentary that came on National Geographic, I guess earlier in the month. It was a five-part series and it brought back such memories. I didn't live in New Orleans during Hurricane Katrina, but my mother did. And actually a lot of my family did. And but they weren't at the convention center, they weren't in the Superdome. Everybody got out, everybody was safe. But the pain of what happened and just watching it on TV, is still there. So just watching the documentary just brought back a lot of memories.
Yeah. I've seen it shown on the screen, when they have the recommended or the new things out, but I hadn't decided yet when or if I want to watch it because I feel like
Oh,
it's going to
it's
take
a
me
very
back.
well done documentary.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I'm not going to say you'll enjoy it, but it's captivating.
Okay.
It's just for me, it brought back memories and it also confirmed some things that I felt but wasn't sure about. And then there are some things I wish that they would have included that they didn't include.
Yeah, I may give it a try. But it seems like they put a lot of effort into it because I think it's five, isn't it 5 hours? It's 5 parts.
It's
It's
5 part.
okay. So it's, that's quite a bit of footage. So
Mhm.
I wanted to ask about your great grandfather. And did you have a relationship with him? Did you know him? Did you get to talk
Well,
to
he
him?
he died 6 years before I was born. Uh,
Okay.
Mm.
so I never met him, but his daughter, my grandmother, was certainly around. I spent a lot of time with her in a house that he had built. He was a carpenter, and he had
Okay.
built the house that she was raised in and lived in, and she would talk about him from time to time. Um, so I was able to soak up a lot of, the atmosphere of the place and the people. And it was very helpful to me, particularly in writing dialogue, uh, to hear her talk and the
Mhm.
cadence of her voice and her word choices. Relatively speaking, she was an educated woman and was a teacher before she retired. Uh, but still, she and some of her friends, that I knew as a little boy, still carried an awful lot of the way of speaking that that would have resonated with Felix. That was his name, my great grandfather's name.
Okay.
Um, so I through records and through things that I'd heard in the family, I was able to reconstruct him a bit. Of course, the story again, I always emphasize is fiction, but
Mhm.
there are anecdotes inserted in it that are true as far as I know. His father, whose name was Pleasant, and a name that I retained in the book, was, a house servant. He was the valet to the master. His
Okay.
Mm.
mother, Elmira, uh, was the big house cook. And, her name really was Elmira. Um, but I changed a lot of the other names. I kept my great grandfather's name, Felix. His wife, my great grandmother, was Zilpha. And so those four names I retained, but I used a different surname and, of course, had to create a fictional situation. But having those four names and having their voices in my head helped to anchor me as I was writing.
So is this your first book?
It is,
Oh,
I
you
yeah,
spent all those
yeah,
years writing
I know, and
and
just somehow never got around to doing a book. I, wrote so many other kinds of, newspaper stuff, magazine articles, reviews. I've, been writing my whole career, but just everything came together in the right way at the right time, that let me finally uh, pull away to do the necessary research and to take the time to sit, at that computer for hours at a time, and to write. And I'm just grateful that people seem to like it and that it's finding its place out there in the world.
That sounds so humble. Hey,
It's
you have a
true.
talent, for writing, because even though this might be your first fiction, the thing about journalism and about writing is you're constantly telling stories.
Indeed.
One of the things I wanted to do when I was an army journalist is I wanted to tell the soldiers' stories. So my feature stories were usually a lot longer. I wanted to humanize the soldiers that I was writing about. So even though I was writing true stories, I wanted to write them in such a way where people wanted to keep reading. So you already had that talent for writing and telling a story inside of you. You were just writing nonfiction. Now you're writing fiction.
Yeah. So did
Well,
you has your family read the book? Like family members, how are they?
my my father died a couple years ago, just 2 weeks shy of his 100th birthday.
Wow.
Oh,
And
both of your
he,
parents, so you got some good genes.
well, I'm counting on that,
Yeah.
because my father's older sister hung on until she was 107. So,
Wow.
Oh boy.
so I'm hoping for that. I will not claim, however, to have lived the good and abstemious life that they did, which probably had uh, was part of the reason they lived so long. But my father loved it, and in fact, I dedicated the book to his memory. And my mother also enjoyed it as well. And the various cousins and so on that I've heard from all seem to think that it was a good piece of work as well.
Okay, so
Right.
did you when you were developing the story, did you how far back did you go in terms of the generations? But you're saying it's just one generation that's covered in the book.
Well, no, not just one.
Oh,
The book includes my great great grandfather.
oh, okay.
Uh, that would be Pleasant and his wife Elmira.
Okay.
And then much of the story revolves around their child, Felix, who was my great grandfather,
Okay.
um, who was, born into slavery and was, 8, 10 years old or so when the war ended and they were emancipated. And then subsequent generations are represented as well, including my mother and my grandmother. But
So were they in Alabama? Were were they in Alabama, or did you just
yes,
decide to make the setting
no,
Alabama?
they
Oh,
were in Alabama.
okay.
Um, Red Clay, the town of the book, is fictional, but it's a stand-in for a real town. And of course, it has elements drawn from other similar towns in that part of Alabama. Uh, but later my family moved to Nashville, and that's where my mother has lived for the last 50 odd years. But the family is rooted in Alabama, and still quite a few of them are there. And in fact, if you're ever in the Birmingham area and you meet a Black person named Fancher, almost certainly one of my cousins.
Okay.
Well, I'm
Because
sure
it's
that
not
that's not a name that a lot of people have. So yeah,
right.
if there's a Fancher,
Right.
they're probably related.
Right. Because I was gonna say it's not a common name. Yeah, it's not like Smith or Jones or even Richardson or Lawson. So
A genealogist contacted me a number of years back who was trying to trace the Fancher name, and he had hit this Black, family hours with that name, and that really intrigued him because all of the other Fanchers that he had ever encountered were white and of French descent, and he had traced them back to um, 1713, there were four brothers, French Huguenots who immigrated to New England, and he had been able to trace the lines of three of those brothers, but he had never been able to make any sense of the fourth brother. The fourth brother just seemed to disappear, although he thought that he had maybe gone south. And that was why this was intriguing to him, because if that one went south, it's conceivable that that Fancher became a planter, and that the black Fanchers taking the slave owners' names, as they often did, might well have been how our name came to be.
That could be your ancestor. We're all mixed up. So
Indeed.
So what do you have any, was this like your one big novel? Like one of the Great Expectations or one of those? Is this or do you plan to keep writing?
Oh, I'll keep writing. There's more in the pipeline. I think, in fact, maybe ready to announce something soon, but not quite yet.
Wonderful. Is it going to be a continuation, or is this going to be a totally different standalone story?
Again, I'm being coy. I know I'm being coy, but I think it's probably more accurate to describe it as a companion rather than a sequel.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay.
I like that.
Well, I can't wait to dig into it because it's right. I've been reading historical fiction lately, but I haven't read anything lately that's from that period. And that's one of my favorite periods. A lot of people say they don't like to read about that period. But if somebody really knows how to write historical fiction and they're writing it from a family standpoint, from the Black family standpoint, I just love those kinds of books because it shows the humanity and what we were able to do, even in the face of what seemed insurmountable odds. So, I love most of the books that I've read, just about all of them. They show the love of the family. It's about the love of the family. And
I like that.
That's why I love historical fiction.
I am hopeful that you will enjoy it because, as you point out, so much of Black history that we get, either involves the period of slavery or the Jim Crow era and into the Civil Rights era. But that Reconstruction era fascinates me because, what an extraordinary thing that a people could be freed and in one generation, start creating institutions and cultural things and finding their place in society in a single generation. That says something, and that period in the 1870s just doesn't get its due, and that was part of what drove me.
Yeah, even if you take the 100 years between 1865 and 1965, there's not enough written about that 100 years. Like you said, it's like, okay, slavery was over and we went to Reconstruction. And then the Civil Rights Movement. No, there's a lot. There's a lot. There's like 4 or 5 generations in there. And we need to know what they did and how they lived and how they survived and how they succeeded. So, in fictional or non-fictional, either way. But I really like the fiction because then you can create characters and you have more liberties that you can take when you write it from that standpoint.
I think so.
Well, Mr. Fancher, thank you so much for being a guest on the show. Our interview time is up for tonight, but I will be reading your book, and when I read it, I will send you a note. I don't know when, like I said, my to be read shelves are full, but it's in the queue.
Oh, when you can
Yes,
get around to it,
yeah, I'll be reading it as well.
I'll look forward to hearing from you. And thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed being here.
Well, we
Okay.
enjoyed talking with you. Thank you so much, and keep writing.
Yeah,
Okay.
want to hear lots of stories from you.
All right.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, for those who are tuning in, our second half of the show, we're going to be announcing our Black Authors Matter Children's Book Awards finalists. And then after we announce the finalists' names and the titles of their books, we're going to have just a brief discussion about the judging process and what all involved and some things that if people want to submit books in the future or the people who submitted books, they might hear some things that may be helpful to them in the future as they continue to write or submit their books for competitive processes. So the thing about submitting your book for an awards process is you're competing with other books and other authors, and there's a winnowing process. And I've submitted my work before and gotten nominated for a few awards. I have two NACP Image Award nominations that I'm very proud of, and they were back to back. It was the years were back to back, which really made it exciting. And then I also got a finalist for it was the National Indie Excellence Awards. One of my Boss Women book, which is a children's book about African American women in business. So, but I've submitted to more than that, and sometimes I didn't make the cut, and it's all part of the process. You know, you have thick skin and just know that, and sometimes it's almost random, you know, in some ways. But there's a panel of judges with all of these processes, and it's the same for our Black Authors Matter Children's Book Award. So on screen, I have two of the judges, and one of our judges, Pamela Jarman Wade, she is on a 3-week trip to Africa. Um, that's exciting. I think she's visiting 3 countries or 4 countries. So she was in New York first, and then I think she's in Africa now. And then Brenda is the other one. And Mary, I don't know where Mary is. So maybe Mary will be joining us later. So Rhonda and Shalita, if you all could unmute or I can
I was about to say I'm already unmuted.
It's too Rhonda. Yeah, Rhonda L and Rhonda since you changed your last name, so I had to think about it. Rhonda G. So when I met her, she was a Joseph. Now she's Garcia. So, but anyway, these are the judges. They're also my very good friends, and also my author traveling buddies. We go places with our books. So we went to malls. You know, we did the mall thing for a while. Well, we did like 6 or 7 of those when we were in the malls all day on a Saturday. It was interesting. And well, we moved on from that, but it was interesting when we did it. It was interesting meeting the public and you know, just being in the mall where you have traffic coming. Some of them are book readers, some of them just like you have books, they just look at you and walk away because they don't read books. So that happens too. Mary is joining us. I had just said, Mary, where is she? So now
why is Mary black and white?
She decided Mary's always doing something tech. So this is probably her latest thing that she's doing.
I just wanted to be a little chic on my work laptop. So
is that what that is? Go ahead, girl.
I got to go to ChatGPT and figure out why it's black and white. Yeah. So there we
He's
are.
always talking about ChatGPT. So
My
I haven't
assistant.
used it for that. But you know what? I did use it for my the key fob on my car. It said that the battery needed to be replaced. And I was like, oh my God. Because I have a BMW. And yeah, everything costs. So the last time I replaced my key fob battery, they told me it was $200. And I was like, I had a spare key that I hadn't been used, so I used that and it worked. But I did go on ChatGPT.
Baby,
It was
it's my virtual assistant. That's what it is. It's very inexpensive.
I keep telling people your chat GPT can be your business coach, your virtual assistant. It can
Everything.
be your admin person, everything
I
Yes.
you
use
need.
it for research. That's what I use it for.
It can go real deep is all she's trying to say.
And I know you go deep with it because Mary be sending me DMing me some stuff. I'm like, okay, Mary, I'm not going there with you. I love you, but I'm only going so far.
So, okay, so with Gwen, I listen to her, but I ignore her because she comes along. She just a little. It's like slowly. She'll come
Okay,
around.
it is. I hear it, but I don't jump on stuff as soon as I hear it. I have to digest it, see it somewhere else, seeing it used, think about it. I have to pray about it. I have to do all of that. So, but I do hear you, and I love it that we all have different things that we focus on and we're good at. And we're all totally different.
And we share. So that's the
But we
good thing
get
about it.
along. We get along great, and yeah, we share. So, and we support each other when we're out and about. We
Yes.
don't. It's not competitive. We're just, we're there and trying to sell as much as we can, but it's not competitive. We're not competing with each other.
Gwen, can I speak on that right quick?
Yes.
We have the Texas Book Festival, our first time coming in full force last
Yes.
November in Austin was amazing. And what's so great about the way we work with each other and collaborate, all of our genres, everybody kind of has different things, if that makes any sense. Most of us, we all have children's books, but when we were, when folks were coming, because we had a great spot, I pray we get it again, nice and visible, but Gwen would be over there talking to somebody, and then Shalita would be over there, and Pam, and then somebody was doing something to look cool, somebody would grab their phone and they would take a picture, and then somebody else would grab a phone while I'm reading Thunder and Light, and then at the end we were like, let me text you this pictures, and y'all put it on social media. So we just worked in concert. If somebody was out the way, get over here. Somebody want to see your book.
Yeah,
I'm coming this year. I'm competing with all y'all.
We got both Rhondas.
Y'all can look. Y'all can be
both
talking
Rhondas.
No, y'all can be talking to a reader. I'm jumping right between y'all.
There'll be plenty of folks for you to get for all my.
I'm just messing with y'all. I'm looking forward to working with y'all. This is gonna be fun.
It's gonna be very fun.
Many people, and we have a double booth this year. The party's gonna be on. Everybody's gonna want to come to our booth because last year they did, and we had a one booth. This year we got a double booth. It's gonna be on. So
let me tell you something.
That's in November.
Wait, Gwen. They have to hear this one little piece.
Okay.
Vendors were coming down, leaving their booths in. What y'all doing?
Yeah. Why y'all got so many people? It's like a party down here. We were selling. That's what we were doing.
We
made people feel welcome.
Yeah.
And so that's something for people to think about when they go out to sell books. People need to feel welcome. They're buying you as much as they are your book. Yes. And if they like you, they'll buy your book, even if they may not even read it. They might give it to somebody or just want to get a signed copy. So it's important. So anyway, I know people have logged on because they want to know about these finalists. And I think we have 8 categories, 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. And what we're going to do, I'm going to start off with the first category, and then we're going to go around till we get done. So for those of you all who don't know about the Black Authors Matter Children's Awards, we started it 4 years ago. We do it every year. People submit their work. They can submit their work in one category or all 8 categories if they want to. They decide what the category is. I have people call and say, what category should I put it in? And I said, we don't tell you. That's up to you to decide. Because see, what will happen is if they don't become a finalist, they'll say, well, you told me to pick that category. And okay, no, you're not gonna be able to say that. You say, this is your book. So you should know where you think it will fit. And we have 2 judging sessions. We meet on a Saturday, pretty much all day on 2 Saturdays, and we break them up about a month apart. And then we judge the books. Each judge is on a point system, so each judge gives it a point from 0.5 up to 5.0. And that way it's a combination of the points, and the highest point getters become the finalists. And then among the finalists, there'll be a winner. We announce the winners at the book festival live on that Saturday morning. But next year, we're actually going to present the awards at the book festival's breakfast on Saturday. So we're making that change. In the past, we did a virtual, but people kept asking, well, when is the awards event? And so now we're going to have an actual awards event. So we'll have more about that next year. So, but people can submit the books. We judge the books. We give them points. The highest 3 point getters in each category are the finalists. So without further ado, we're going to start with African diaspora. And well, before we do that, I'm going to list the categories that we had. We have African diaspora. We have coloring books, activity books, comic books, that's all one category. Graphic novels, that's all one category. Educational, motivational, religious faith. A lot of book submissions don't have a religious faith category, but we do because that faith is a big part of our culture, and we didn't want to leave that out. And then we also have social commentaries / justice, which again is part of our culture. And so we include that in our categories. We have a category for age 13 plus. So this is young adult books, and then best illustrator. So the first category, African diaspora, the 3 finalists are Nisi and Nene and the Glitter Girls by Sarone Harvey, Rose's Fishing Trip with Great Uncle Joe by Lori Knox, The Phenomenal Leader in Me, Africa Edition by Lucy. I don't know how to pronounce her last name, but it starts with an M. It looks like Matsuaka, something like that. So those are the 3 finalists in that category. And before we move on to the next category, people who submitted their books in more than one category, some of them are finalists in more than one category. So you'll hear that as we move along. And so next we'll do, Mary, do you want to do the coloring books, activity books one? You're muted. Unmute yourself. And we only have 2 finalists in this category because the other submissions, there was a problem with them in terms of they were disqualified. The years for the copyright were 2023, 2024, and 2025. Those were the only 3 years your book could be published in. And some people, for whatever reason, maybe they thought we wouldn't notice, or I don't know, or maybe they didn't read the instructions. But we got books as old as 10 years old that some people sent in. And the first thing we do before we even start evaluating is look for the copyright, because if it's not one of those years, they automatically get disqualified. And all of the books, though, every book that's submitted is donated to an African-American library in Houston for their African-American books department. And so we do that every year. They're very excited to get the books, and they put them out. And that's a way for your book to get seen. So Mary, do you want to do the coloring books one?
Yes. So the finalists, let me make sure I'm doing this right, because I think we only have 2.
We only have 2. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So the finalists for the coloring books, activity books, etc., are The first one, and this is in no certain order, The House That Love Built by Annie Adams is the first. And the second is Justin Saves the Universe by Florenza Lee.
Okay, so if they're watching, congratulations to you and all the finalists. So, Rhonda Garcia, you want to go next?
Sure. So the finalists for our educational category are Alan Learns to Talk by Sharon Austin, Let's Find My ABCs by Jasmine Harris, and Small Shoes, Great Strides by Vonda Nelson.
Okay. And after we're done announcing all the finalists, we're going to discuss some more of the process and give some advice to authors who may want to submit in the future or who submitted this time or in the past. So the next one, Shalita, you want to do motivational.
Yes, motivational. Niecy and Nene and the Tangled Hair Mess by Simone Dankenbring. What Will Nicole Be by Shantae Morgan. Exploring All I Can Do by Archery by Nia, I hope I don't say this wrong, Obatet, for motivation.
Okay. I'm going to go next with the religious faith category. And the finalists in that category are The House That Love Built by Annie Adams, Fly Away by Zena Francis, and Prayer Board by Pat Goffey or Goff. I'm not sure if it's pronounced Goffey or Goff. So those are the three in religious faith. And again, a lot of book submission for awards, for prizes. They don't include a religious faith category unless it's a religious faith organization doing it. And in our case, because faith is so central to our culture and our communities, we would be remiss if we didn't allow religious faith books to be included and have their own category. So, some competitions will say they don't accept religious books. So that's not the case with us. So next, social commentary, Justice Mary, you want to do that one? Unmute.
Sorry, I'm over here. ChatGPT is trying to help me get back in color over here. Okay, social commentary. Oops, wrong one. Hold on. Let's see. Social commentary / justice. Again, in no certain order. The first is She's Just Like Me by Jamaica Banks. The second, Radiant by Vonda Nelson. And the third, The Adventure of Pam and Gail by Jacqueline Johnson.
Okay. And I see some of the people, they're saying congratulations. And I see some of the names. Florenza Lee, she put yeah, because she's a finalist. And I think she submitted before. Well, she was at the festival with her books a couple of years ago. And I encouraged her to submit her book. And someone else said something. So anyway, let's go on to the next one. Age 13 plus. That would be Rhonda Garcia.
So in our age 13 plus category, our three finalists are Shoes by Russell Andrews, Dark Country by James Johnson, and The Self-Liberation of by David Mason.
Okay, the self-liberation of, it's more to that book title, but somehow it got cut off. Anyway, it's David Mason's book. So congratulations to all the finalists so far. And we have our final category, which is Best Illustrator. And Shalita's going to give us those names.
Best Illustrator, Mila's Trip to the Magical Land by Isaiah Alford. Fly Away by Zena Francis. And then Rose's Trip with Great Uncle Joe by Lori Knox. Congratulations to all the finalists.
Okay, and for those who may have tuned in late, you can always go back and watch the beginning at 8 o'clock of this. But we're also going to be producing a video with all the finalists' pictures and their books, and that should be online within the next week or so. So, and we'll send everyone the link. All the finalists will get a link so they can post it on their social media pages and share it with everyone. So, congratulations, and we hope the finalists are as excited as we are to when we judge the books. It's a very exciting time for us to do. It's an honor to evaluate these books, and we appreciate people submitting their work. So in our discussion time, what I like to do is just go around first and get some feedback from our judges, and if they have some advice for the people who submit their books or the people who may submit in the future. Just some brief advice. Now I'm going to go first. I take a point of privilege. Anyway, one thing I will say, if you're publishing a book, not just submitting it, but publishing your book, a children's book, just make sure that it looks professional, because this is important. You want to be represented well with your work. And illustrations are the end all be all of a children's book. If your illustrations look amateurish or they just don't look like much thought went into them, it's just not good. So that's what I'll say to start. Just look at your work, compare it to books in the bookstore. Go to a bookstore and look at the children's books. Just the covers. If you just look at the covers, that will give you some clues as to where you should go. And nowadays, you can get illustrations done by people all over the world fairly cheaply. Any AI illustrations are excluded. They're automatically disqualified, because if you're an illustrator, especially for Best Illustrator, you have to actually be an illustrator. Can't be a computer, a robot, or whatever. Can't be AI generated. It has to be your work as an illustrator. So just keep that in mind, because we do disqualify people. It's obvious, a lot of it's obviously AI done. So Shalita, you want to go next?
Okay. Well, I have a few suggestions. You should know your audience. When you're reading it, and it is a children's book, one of the things that stand out to me is I'm always asking, who are you writing to? Because children have a certain vocabulary. Children also have a great imagination. And so when there are words that are very big for them, it's okay if you're going to write a book that's a parent reading to a child, but somewhere you need to make that known. I've noticed some books are very wordy as well. I mean, you have 100 words on a page. I mean, if a child, I'm not saying some children are not genius, because there are, but the average child is probably going to get bored, about the fifth word, right? So just want to make sure that you're mindful of that. Also, rhyming is a great thing. It brings rhythm to what you're writing, but make sure that when you're rhyming, that it's telling a story and that it makes sense. Because again, for a child or for anybody that's reading it, it really throws you off if it's a great rhyme, but Johnny went to the water and then he could have went farther. I mean, you know what I'm saying? What are you talking about? So you want to make sure that it makes sense when you're doing it and that it's relevant to the story, because I'll guarantee you, if it makes the story, they'll remember it. I was speaking to someone the other day, and I know that they bought my children's books probably about 10 years ago. And so the young lady that had it, I was so excited because she's getting older. She's about 14. So I asked her mom, I said, I remember you bought my books. And she was like, oh, yeah. She's like, she still have them on the bookshelf. Even though she's 14, she will not part with those books. She say they're good quality. And I was just, that was a kind of a surprise for me, but it was very heartwarming to know that even after her teenage years, she still loved her children's books. So you want them to have that relationship. And then also, I've had parents that tell me they start reading it to the children when they're young, the mother and the father, and then before they go to bed, they bring it to the parents so that they can read it to them. So you want that kind of story, is what I'm saying. Doesn't have to be like mine for sure, but when you hear that, it makes you feel that, yes, they got it, they understood it, and it was relevant to them. So those were just two examples of some feedback that I received, and hopefully that's helpful.
Okay, Rhonda Garcia.
I think that I would suggest that writers think about their book not just as a something in the moment, like a product in the moment, but a product for longevity. Right. And so what that means is that you have to think about not just a professional presentation in appropriate manner, but you want to think about what will you say in interviews when you're talking about your book? What will you say about yourself? If you use a children's book to tell your whole life story on the front or back cover copy in the like the author's information, I think that's a little off-putting for me as a reader. Because I'm thinking this is great. This is wonderful that this is great that you've done all these things. But what are you going to say in your interviews? Are you going to say that same thing? Are you going to recycle that? I mean, so just kind of save yourself some time. I mean, and that said, it's really important if you're writing a book about, let's say, a nonverbal child and helping them to find their voice, and you are a licensed speech pathologist. That makes sense that you would put your credentials in your name on your title. But it does not necessarily mean that you want to talk about all of your theory, all of your, all of your studies and every single thing that you ever wrote and your whole dissertation on the cover of your children's books. That's stuff that you want to use for your advertising. That's stuff you want to use for sound bites. That's stuff you want to use in the beyond, like beyond that one book. You want to think about what you want your readers to focus on. And in that one book, you really should want them to focus on this wonderful book you wrote, not wondering, oh my gosh, why did this person say that they grew up here and this is what happened? And we, that's not even what the book is about. What are we doing here?
Okay. And Mary, your turn. You're still in black and white, so we assume that Chat GPT fails you this time. You can figure it out when you get off.
No, I have to log out of all sessions, and if I do that, then I disappear. So
all right.
I have to do this.
Okay, I get it.
Some of the things that, thank you, but some of the things that, trying to figure out how I can say this. So we're representing the Black Authors Matter and the National Black Book Festival, and some of the things that we observed were authors, kind of like a little bit what Rhonda was saying. They would, typos, poor quality illustrations. I think we found one of them, I don't even think it had a copyright anywhere on it. I mean, it was as if they just didn't do the due diligence of what does it look like to get a book published, particularly if you're a self-published author. It's like, I'm a self-published author. My book, Thunder and Lightning, went through 12 revisions and there's only 28 pages. Because it was fully colored, I only had 300 words. So it was very important. I took my time. I guess that's what I'm saying, is that don't be in a hurry to hurry up and get something published and you're publishing something that is not of top quality. Because if you're going to do something with that, for example, enter it into a competition such as this, it's going to get looked over really well by not just 1, 2, 3, 4 people. In some other competitions, they may have a team of 12, and it probably will only take those 12 people less than a minute to just toot, 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 and then they're done. They won't even open the book because they can't get past the cover, or they're looking for the copyright. They're looking for something. They're not looking for all the wordiness that we were talking about on the front and the back. And I think what it is that folks are so excited. I'm getting the book published, and you, as Gwen said, you didn't go into a bookstore, or you don't have a current book on your, in front of you, in front of you, so you can compare, juxtapose the two, and say, does this match up with one of the top 10 children's books and on Amazon or on Barnes and Noble? I mean, these days, just going forward, you can grab your whole manuscript and throw it into Grammarly, or throw it into ChatGPT, and they will give you quickly. You got some typos here. This sentence doesn't make sense. So, if I could say anything, please compare. Run your stuff by, even if you have to pay someone, a college English professor, or pay someone on these sites like Fiverr, or uh, they have a ton. There's really no excuse to publish a book in the year of our Lord 2025, and you haven't sent it through some type of professional editing. So I'll just share that.
Freelancer is another one. Freelancer.com.
Yeah, I couldn't remember this. I mean, there's plenty. Just Google
and
it.
Upwork. Upwork is another one.
Upwork.
So
Yep.
they're all kinds where people, you can get it done relatively inexpensively. And a children's book is not that many words, but don't shirk the responsibility of editing just because it's a children's book. It still needs to be edited. It needs to be grammatically correct. It needs to be free. This is something that all of us notice, and it's like a pet peeve of the whole. And we have 2 judges that are absent, so it's a team of 6 people that look at these books. Random capitalizations. Just every word, because you think a word is important, doesn't mean it's supposed to be capitalized.
Or bolded.
Yeah, a certain words are supposed to be. Rhonda, you're laughing, but really, no. I mean,
I'm laughing because it's true. People think everything's
common.
supposed to be capitalized.
Yeah,
I mean,
not.
I told y'all I work in federal government. People do the same thing in federal government. They're always trying to capitalize something that doesn't need to be capitalized.
Right. It's supposed to be proper names. A person, a place, or a thing. That's a person's name, a place, and a few other things, like the name of an object or something, like the name of, like if it's a wine, the name of the wine, but not the word wine. See, that's different. So that's something an editor will catch, and that's why you get points off for that kind of thing. You just or you don't get points added. It's one of the two. You're gonna get points off, or you don't get points added. Those things matter, because if you're doing something, it's worth doing it well. It's worth doing it right. So that was one thing that really stood out for a lot of books. And some people, it seems like they're trying to tell their family story in a kid's book. And this is one thing that did happen. Somebody said their 8-month-old son wrote the book. Okay, that's impossible. No, seriously. That's impossible. So don't lie. And you want to put your child's name on a book. They're 8 months old. They didn't write that book. So these are things that during the judging process we pay attention to. And you all feel free to chime in anytime. Just if something comes to mind. Just some different things that we found. The main one one of the main one was you have to look at the instructions when you submit a book for competition. If the copyright is a certain year, then don't submit your book if it's not during that time period, because it will be eliminated. And you're just wasting copies of your book and money, because most of the processes, including ours, is a small fee. But you're submitting your book, and it's not even going to cut the mustard for being qualified.
I just think that if they're going to submit, that they really need to sit down with someone who has attention to detail with the requirements before they submit it. Like, I'm about to submit this. Who do I know? A relative, a good friend, a coworker who's just, that's all they do. They love, and I'm going to run it by them, and I'll take them out to eat or whatever, pay them, rather than thinking you got this all figured out, and you're not someone who really is attention detail oriented. I mean, because as Gwen said, you're going to waste your book, your money, your whole anxiety of hoping going to be a finalist, and you're off the table immediately just simply because you didn't follow the instructions. That Gwen is very copious in delivering.
Yeah, well, and it's not like it's a huge list or it's not complicated. It's very simple. The book has to be in those 3 years. Next year, it'll be 2024, 2025, and 2026. So it moves each year. It needs to be a book by an African-American author or with an African-American theme. That's those qualifications. And you have to pick the category you want to submit it in. It's not like a complicated set, but you do have to read the qualifications. You have to read them, and
okay,
unless you think we're not paying attention, we are. It's six people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Because you even mentioned, Gwen, about the categories. You have to know your product and where it goes, because when you put it somewhere that it really doesn't fit, it looks like you're trying to hustle us, right? It's like you're one of those people on Amazon. And as a Black horror writer, I feel this so deeply, because there are books that are listed as African-American horror that are very clearly not horror books. The thing is, the writer has hustled themselves into that category label, because you get to pick it yourself, because it's a small category. And so, when you're a judge of a contest and you see people putting their books in categories that don't match, the first thing I'm thinking is, you trying to hustle me. You think I'm not paying attention. I'm paying real close attention. And you know what? My girl's paying real close attention too. So you can't hustle us. It's not supposed to be here. It's either that, or you did not do your research, so you don't know your product. You don't know what it is. So you don't know where to put it. It's really, really important, because for marketing purposes, you have to know what it is. You can't rely on those accidental horror readers that are going to accidentally buy your book. You cannot rely on them. They're going to be very few and far between, especially when everybody catches on to what you're doing. So you have to know what your book is, how to market it, what category it needs to go in, and be authentic about that.
And when we're judging these books, it's funny because one person might not see something, and then the second person might not see it, but then the third person brings something to our attention, and we're like, you know what, you're right. And so there's there's subtle things. There are things. Does your content match your book title? Is what you say the book is about, is that what it's really about? Some that happens. People have one title, and then the content has nothing to do with what the title is. That happens.
They'll have a picture in a title, and the content doesn't even match the picture.
It needs to go together. It's a children's book, but there are standards. So you can't just like rush through and think you can be putting something out just because it's a children's book category. But I want to emphasize, I know you want your children to get a name for themselves. And I wrote a book with my daughter when she was a sophomore in college. We wrote a book together. It got nominated for an NAACP Image Award. It was very exciting. But when she was 2 years old, I didn't say she wrote a book. I mean, come on. So if you got a baby, if you got a toddler, they can't read yet. And how can they write a book? It's just really, don't do it. Don't do it. Because it's not true. Your baby did not write that book. So just don't do it. And one other thing from my vantage point with the religious faith category, which is very important. Just because it's for kids, your book still needs to be biblically sound. We had a couple of submissions. What they had in there was not matching up, and they were quoting scriptures. It did not match up with, it's like a loose interpretation to the point of where it's so loose, it was not what was said, meant, or said in the Bible. So if you're going to do religious faith and you're going to refer to scripture, it has to be biblically sound, because you got 6 people, they're all believers, and we know enough about, none of us are preachers, although Shalita has a gift of prayer, bar none. She's anointed, but none of us are like went to seminary, but we all know enough Bible to know what's not biblical. Or anyway, so that's my 2 cents on that. So you all can keep chiming in. That was just some things that triggered. I was triggered by the the misquoting of misinterpretation, complete misinterpretation of scripture. You can't feed children wrong word. It's just not right. I know you're trying to encourage them, but it needs to be biblically sound. What you're saying needs, if you're going to refer to a Bible verse, it needs to match up. You can't just make up your own. Like, I have a Bible that's 4 different versions of the Bible. You can't just make up your own version. It's not, you just can't. Anyway, who talked last? Mary talked last, but Mary had something to say. I can tell.
Yeah, because I was thinking there was one, we saw 1 or 2 books where I believe they had an illustrator and they had a main character, and the child, I think is, child in the book looked different. I'm not talking about like look different because they turned this way or turned this way. They literally had a whole different, it was like a different person. And that was different because we were keeping up with this particular character, and the illustrator illustrated them as if they were a different person, literally. That was
Yeah, we
and
wondered
that was
if
with
they
the
changed
pastor, right?
illustrators. Like, we wondered if maybe whoever wrote the book changed illustrators. Well, if you do, you need to do the whole book. You can't have one illustrator doing half of the book and then a totally different illustrator doing the second half. You can't do that.
If you imagine that to
That's
be in a
ridiculous.
movie, the book is like a movie. You're looking at one character, and halfway through is a whole different person. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
or the first half of the movie was color and then the second half is black and white.
yeah, that's
And not intentionally,
Yeah.
because intention matters. If it's a
not
stylistic
intentionally.
choice, yes, if it's a stylistic choice, it should be
Yeah.
obvious that
Yeah.
that's what that was.
Right.
Yeah.
If it's
Yeah.
stylist.
Well, I'm going to talk about this rhyme because Shalita mentioned it. It's a really great vehicle for children's writing, because of the lyricism of it. But I think that this writers really want to think about the fact that when you're rhyming, though, it needs to be well done, because in print is a different kind of thing than it is in, let's say, in rap music or in song, because you're hearing it, you're listening to it, and your brain might not automatically catch that that's not a great rhyme. Even in spoken word, right? You can almost get away with some stuff. But when it's down on paper and people can look at it and see it, that it's very obvious when your rhymes are not lining up. So you have to kind of think about the way that it looks, as opposed to just how it sounds. Because it might sound okay to the kid if they're not reading it themselves, but the person reading it to them is going to see it. And they're going to go, what? These don't really go together like that.
Yeah, and don't just rhyme for the sake of rhyming, like a random rhyme, a phrase that it may rhyme, but it doesn't make sense. It doesn't match the previous line. it has to match up. It has to make sense and not just you went in to what rhymes with school.
Pool,
Cool.
pool,
And you
Uberuba,
just put something there because it rhymes with school.
cool.
It doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense.
Cool.
It really has no purpose to it. So that's something that I that we noticed too about the rhyming. The rhyming needs to make sense. And then something else that we noticed. These books are for children. Heavy topics for kids is it has to be handled extremely delicately. And then really you want a book for kids to be something that's going to make them happy. Really. Because you want them to keep reading. If they associate reading with sadness and tragedy, they might just give up reading altogether. So some topics are just too heavy for kids. Now, things happen in the world and things are happening in our world. But should that be what a kid's book is about? There's a way to discuss those topics. But a kid's book may not be the vehicle, let me say that, for those discussions. Because like I said, you want reading to be a pleasurable experience for a kid. Because if they enjoy it, they'll keep doing it, and you want them to keep doing it. But if it's associated with tragedy or something negative, or it's age inappropriate, there's some things that if you're dealing with preschoolers, is not the subject matter is not appropriate. Something that you would talk to a high schooler about is not appropriate for a preschooler. It's just it should be age appropriate, and there is such a thing as age appropriate. Although some people think you should expose children to everything, no, they don't need to be exposed to everything, and that's part of the problem. Kids are being exposed to too much. They're not ready to absorb it. Their brains don't have the capacity to be able to discern, or they're children. Their brains are still developing. So
yeah, and if it's really just laid on your heart that you just have to touch these heavy topics, it's well worth it when writing for kids to hire an expert. Like consult with a child psychologist or consult with a child development expert, because you can't just be throwing stuff out there saying, well, I would tell my kids this. That's great and that's wonderful, but you are expecting other people to give this for their children. And so you kind of want to go with something that has been researched, something that experts know how to approach. But it just goes back to doing the research for your product. If you're going to do it, you kind of want to be responsible about it, because there are ways to do it, and we see a lot of the ways that it shouldn't be done.
Let's just say we had someone who may have been licensed in some manner and they felt like they were an authority on a heavy topic. And there's nothing wrong with someone being licensed, and I've dealt with this with children. I think the question after that, and you have the intention of writing a children's book about that, do your due diligence and research to find out who else, how else has it been published, what age group, how successful was it? Because it's not just about getting it published because you want to reach a broad audience. But if you see that it's not really, it's kind of a catch-22. If you see it's not out there, you're like, ooh, I'm going to be the first one. Well, you got to question yourself. Why has it not been in a wide breadth? Because, like, if it hadn't been widely distributed, this particular topic, you got to ask why. And there's nothing wrong with being that first one, but that takes a social media following. People are clamoring like, "Ooh, I love your podcast. I hope you write some books for kids like this." But if you just coming up with this whole idea on your own, you're probably going to have some. It's going to be a struggle, and just getting it out and promoting it, because the parent, particularly books with those types of topics, kind of heavy ones, they're going to run through that first. Even my preteen series is not published yet. I run it through. I send the galley to parents. I'm like, I need to see what you think about it before you let your fourth grader read it. And you have to do these types of things.
Mm-hmm.
I think some of the process can be painful, to get the feedback. It may be painful, but it's necessary. You need to hear that. As there are going to be times you just have to tear it up and start over again. Been there, done that many times for a children's book. And I was ready to publish, but I was like, I do want it to be right, right? And so you have to trust the person that you ask to edit for you as well, right? That they are doing it for the goodness. Review it again. Just think about it again. And then if you have to start over again, don't be afraid to start over again. Also, don't be afraid to change your title. I think somebody was mentioning about the title has to match the content. For my first children's book, especially, I had a name in mind. I was ready. I began the process of writing. I finished it. But when I finished it, I knew it was not the title of that book that I finished. So I had to painfully go back and say, this is the title that it should be, right? And it worked out very well. But what if I would have just said, no, I'm just going to go and leave it there because I like that title. It just did not fit the book. You can actually write a book and find out that there's a different title. I will always start with the outline as well. Even if it's a children's book, there's still a certain order in my brain that gets it in line where I need it to be, right? And so once I get that organized, then I begin the process. And again, things are going to change during the time of you writing that. Don't be afraid to try that. And then one of the things my daughter helped me with, and I don't know if Chat GPT wasn't quite as popular then, put it in the phone and let the phone read it to you. She dropped the whole book in there and it read it back to me. And that made me rethink some things, right? She's a beast now. And my daughter helped me edit. She's a beast. And she don't care if you don't like it. So but after I went through that process, I felt so much better about the work that I was going to put out there. So don't be afraid to get your feelings hurt. Just go and get your feelings hurt, because you'd rather do that than put the book out there and then everybody say, oh no. Go and get your feelings hurt before you start. Get your feelings off and do all that stuff. I highly recommend that. And then you'll be so glad that you did. You'll be so glad that you did.
Yep.
Yeah, the people talk about, some people have beta readers, really not with children's books, but have a couple of people that you trust to be objective, to look at your work before you pull the trigger on it. You could even get a proof, if you're going through KDP, Amazon KDP, get a couple of extra proofs, let somebody look at the flow of the words, especially because hopefully your illustrations are already on point. But let somebody else read your work and give you some feedback. And that, it may be feedback that you may not have expected, but it's good to get an objective opinion rather than just go with yourself, And we can be inspired, all of my books are inspired, but I do get feedback from at least 2 or 3 other people.
Yes.
Before I go to press with things, just because that I don't know everything, and it's easy to miss some things when it's your work because it's too close to you. It's almost like your child, and so people don't like you criticizing their kids, but before you put your book out there into the public, let a couple of people look at it before you go to press. And something else we noticed, having done this for 4 years, we started to get a lot of repeat topics. We talked about this. So try to write something different that is not a gazillion books. For example, there are a gazillion ABC books. They, take the alphabet, go from A to Z, and name something and put some illustrations with it. There are gazillions of those. We get them at the process. And some of them aren't done properly either. It's like people just randomly pick something to represent one of the alphabets. So think of something that's not necessarily common, a different theme that you can write under for your book. And there's all kind of topics, it could be, trees. It could be animals. It could be a parade, a holiday parade. It could be anything. Kids books, you really can run the gamut. Just make it fun to read. To me, it should be fun, interesting, fun. It can be educational, not too deep for somebody that's under 8. It needs to flow. And rhyming's good, but it's not absolutely necessary. You don't have to rhyme. But if you rhyme, please let the rhymes match make sense. Make it make sense.
I was going to say also, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was done.
We talked about, we saw some books that I think Rhonda mentioned it that had a lot of words. It could have been Rhonda or Shalita that mentioned it. And there's 2 types of children's books. You have picture books that should be, I'll be generous with just saying it's 1,000 words or less, and kind of how you put them, 30-page book. Like I said, mine is 300 words. And then you have chapter books. And if it's a picture book, it shouldn't have hundreds of words in it, because picture books are driven by the pictures and the words add to it. And so every page needs a picture. So we saw some children's books that had a whole bunch of words and no picture on one page. And then the next page had a picture. It did not make for a good book that a child, let's say that was 10 years old or 8 years old, who was wanting to see some pictures, but they instead got a whole bunch of words, like at least like 300-400 words on one of the, throughout the book. So make it make sense is what I'm going to share.
Yeah. And don't include a 2-page dedication at the beginning of a children's book where you thank everybody in your family, your extended family, your boss, your coworkers, your pastor, your classmates from high school,
your neighbor from 30 years ago.
No, not in
Save it for the interviews. Save it for your press kit. Save that. Save that.
Not in the children's book. So anyway, we hope our comments were helpful to the people who submitted their work, to the people who might plan to for next year, or just people who are writing children's books. We all have, except Rhonda, she doesn't have any children's books yet, but we're thinking she might. But
maybe.
Me, Mary, Shalita, and Pam, who's the one that's traveling in Africa, we all have children's books ourselves. So we have some experience with it, and our books have been successful. And we love what we do. We love giving the recognition to authors who might not get the recognition otherwise. It helps elevate their work. And, when you get recognized for your work, it really gives you a boost, a psychological boost. So we are at the end of our show, and we'll be back next week with our lineup of guests, and we'll have 4 guests again next week. But we appreciate you tuning in, and thank you to the judging panel for being part of the show. These are also my friends, and we appreciate you. So Rhonda signed off since she wasn't on the judging committee, and so I am your host signing off for this week, and we'll see you next Tuesday on another episode of Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you, Gwen.
Thank you for tuning in, and join us next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern for another edition of Black Authors Matter TV.